he was how tall?
Jimmy Walker was 6'3", 6'4", which was considered a big guard.
Okay. Did any of your other siblings end up playing in the NBA? Did anyone else get the height that you got?
I am the tallest person in my family,
Okay.
still to this day. So whatever gene pool that
Yeah.
I helped inherit, and again, I'm not his only son,
Right. That's what I'm saying.
but for whatever it was meant to be, somebody above was looking down on me.
You hit the lottery.
Yeah, I guess I
Um,
hit the genetic lottery.
he ended up passing in 2007
Mm-hmm.
from lung cancer. He was 63 years old. Did you attend his funeral?
I did.
Aha. Did you get to meet a bunch of your other family for the first time at that point?
Well, Vlad, this was one of the colder days in my life that became a learning experience that I want all young people to understand. Like, we grew up in the neighborhood with this live fast, die young mentality, and or get rich or die trying. And so being at his funeral with one of the top 50 players in the history of the NBA, Dave Bing, my godfather, his former teammate, who at times when my father hit hard times, allegedly lived with Dave while they were in the league. Okay. So I'm at the funeral with him. It was probably a total of 20 people there.
Not a big, huge outpouring. Okay.
I was like, whoa.
Really intimate.
Because if you think about it, something can happen to an infant, something can happen to somebody elderly, somebody can happen to whoever at what phase in life. You would hope that there's more than 20 people there to pay respects. Now, I didn't know.
Especially with 13 kids?
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly 13 children who have families of their own and everything. Yeah.
But also just somebody that was so very accomplished in his own right.
Correct.
And so that gave me a level of clarity that whatever path that was, or whatever generational curses may exist that I'm tied to, being clearly an offspring, I just want to try to be better at those phases in my life. But I was there to say thank you. I was there to pay homage, and no regrets at all about going. One regret, though, for everybody out there who is estranged from a parent, those are probably the most unique relationships you're ever going to have, because you'll have other siblings, you'll have other friends, you have other cousins. You get one biological mother, one biological father, and you don't choose them.
Right.
Right? And so there are some situations where you're just unable to make it right. But if you're able to make it right, try to make it right. And so one of my regrets is I didn't get a chance to see him before he passed. And I was going to do it. He died in 2007. That's the year I retired. And so I was working the NBA playoffs, and I was like, as the season ended with the playoffs, the draft, free agency, I was like, I'm going to go to Kansas City and see him.
Never happened, though.
Never got a chance to do it.
Well, it's quite a story. That's a movie in and of itself, right there. But you definitely got through it, and you accomplished, I feel, greater things than your father. Well, you grew up in Detroit, and which at one point, I think when you were really young, was a thriving city. The car makers were there, and everyone had jobs and homes. Then the car manufacturers moved away, and then crack hit. Kind of around the same time. Did you get to see the city just start to buckle under that pressure?
I did. And you ask any person that's elderly what they would take if they could have a choice for anything in their life. They wouldn't say money. They would say youth. They would want to be younger. That's why that there's a phrase that sometimes youth is wasted on the young. And so being somebody that was born in 1973, I got a chance to not only witness the birth of hip hop and see all of the changes that has taken place since that period of time, from when the first records were made. The same thing with my hometown, one that was really thriving to the point where we had 1.5 to 2 million people in Detroit. Now we approximately have 600,000.
Wow, a third.
Okay, and that dynamic of everybody, you hope each major city has something that they're proud of. And what comes up when you hear about Detroit? Music, Motown, it's thriving, Berry Gordy, the auto industry.
Yep.
I'm a direct impact from that. My mother worked at Chrysler over 20 years. One of my uncles, Paramore, rest in peace, worked at Ford over 30 years. My uncle Leonard worked at GM over 30 years. My grandfather, Paramore Hicks Sr., worked at the plant for over 30 years. That was Detroit. Okay. Maybe a high school diploma, get a job at the plant, willing to work 40 weeks, get the time and a half, get the double time, buy a car on the A plan, save $10,000, be able to live in a thriving neighborhood, which was the inner city at the time. A lot of businesses were black owned. And Detroit became a hub for a lot of people that were migrating from the South. They were like, okay, we're trying to leave Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, get to Detroit, where we know that it's thriving. And so I remember feeling like Detroit was the heartbeat or one of the more prouder places in the United States of America to be because we were thriving. We had I think we're the first city to have a black mayor, Coleman A. Young. And I remember a sea change as he did an interview. I think it was with like NBC back in the day. And they were talking about how the changes were starting to happen in Detroit and crack was starting to kick in during the Reagan era and stuff like that. And he kicked him out of his office on live TV. And so being a Detroiter, we took pride in like, okay, people want to kick us while we're down type of thing. But that crack epidemic in the 80s was something way different that none of us had seen before. And it hit most inner cities. It hit Detroit as hard as any place in the country.